have this unfortunate habit of re-engaging with the same pieces of art over and over again. I like to listen to albums on repeat, and I'll normally have about 4 that I cycle through until I find a new one to replace one of the other 4. I have watched the film I'm Thinking of Ending Things about 10 times at least. I've played a whole lot of Ratchet & Clank, Hades, and Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. That is all to say, hi, please comment or DM me somewhere your favorite films, albums, songs, shows, games, manga. I love art, but I'm always more likely to engage with pieces that are new to me if they're recommended by someone else. I listen to a lot of new music and watch a lot of new films when I'm in a relationship. One of the shows that I've watched through a bunch of times is Michael Schur's The Good Place. The Good Place is a half-hour sitcom that aired on NBC and currently airs on Netflix as background noise when I am working and I'm tired of replaying Bob's Burgers over and over. The 4 seasons are led by television greats Ted Danson and Kristen Bell. It follows a group of eclectic weirdos as they navigate the absurdity of the afterlife through the lens of moral philosophy. It talks about a lot of philosophical concepts like consequentialism, deontology, contractualism, moral particularism, existential crises, and absurdism. Philosophy is an ancient field of study. It is famously very, very complicated. That obviously includes moral philosophy. A favorite moral philosopher of the show, T.M. Scanlon, wrote, "Working out the terms of moral justification is an unending task." Really, though? At the end of the day, by the time the credits roll on the final episode, it's pretty clear. The Good Place knows the answer, and it lies in the most simple philosophical statement known to man. Axiom 1. This section is a synopsis. For those of you who haven't seen the show, or for whom it's been a hot sec, let me enlighten you. Welcome to Professor Corona's media analysis class. No, unfortunately, I am not ripped like Chidi Anagonye. Or maybe the better joke to go with here is, if you want to learn more about analysis, see me after class. Office hours are from 6 to 9. Eleanor Shellstrop is dead. She wakes up in the afterlife, a sort of walkable city managed by a city planner / architect named Michael. He explains that all religions were a little teensy bit correct, but more important than that, she is in what she would consider the good place. They go on a tour, he compliments her on the amazing things she did in her life, he shows her to her new home, and introduces her to her soulmate, Chidi Anagonye. When Michael heads out, Eleanor reveals there's been a mistake. She's not the person Michael thinks she is, and she does not belong in the good place. Eleanor fears that revealing this mistake will get her sent to the bad place, where human souls are tortured in various ways for all of eternity. In order to save her from eternal damnation, Chidi, a professor of moral philosophy, decides to teach Eleanor ethics. Along the way, they befriend Tahani Al-Jamil, a British socialite and philanthropist who was apparently friends with every famous person on the planet, and Jason Mendoza, a beautiful himbo from Florida who is also there by mistake. Crazy things happen in the neighborhood, like a giant sinkhole forming that shouldn't be there after Eleanor punches a hole in a cake. It seems like the problems are probably caused by Eleanor being there. She gets Chidi to kill the not a girl, not a robot, all-powerful AI Janet, and when that fails to fix everything, she reveals herself to Michael. He calls the bad place to pick her up, and she flees with Janet and Jason, now in love, to the medium place, where Mindy St. Clair lives without cocaine. Oh, if you meet her, she's going to ask you for cocaine. Sniff, sniff, snort some water. An ultimatum is given. Either Eleanor and Jason give themselves up, or Chidi and Tahani go to the bad place in their stead. When the duo return and the 4 argue about which 2 should go to the bad place, Eleanor realizes one of the greatest plot twists in television history. They can't be sent to the bad place. They're already there. She's right. Eleanor, Chidi, Tahani, and Jason are the only humans in the neighborhood. Everyone else, including Michael but excluding Janet, is a demon. They are being tortured. Michael reboots the humans, erasing their afterlife memories, and starts his experiment once more. Unfortunately, the humans have a habit of catching on to what's going on. They keep realizing they are not in the good place. If Michael's many failures get revealed to his boss, he'll be terribly punished, so he decides to team up with the humans and good Janet instead of letting himself take a horrible downfall. He starts learning ethics from Chidi. He slowly starts to learn to care for the humans, and they for him. The group journey into the heart of the bad place in order to get to a portal that will lead them to the judge. After all, the 4 humans have been improving, and that shouldn't be possible according to Michael. So maybe the judge can get them to the actual good place. The judge decides instead to reboot the humans, erase their afterlife memories, and send them back to Earth to see if their near-death experiences, because, they're saved from their deaths now, might lead them to being better people. Michael and Janet monitor them from the afterlife. Michael gets nervous when the 4 regress back into old habits, and he starts meddling more and more in their lives, defying the judge and eventually, accidentally, revealing the secrets of the afterlife to the 4. This condemns them. They decide to use the time they have left before getting tortured for forever to improve the morals and lives of their loved ones so that they might get into the good place. Michael starts to suspect that the bad place is messing with the point system used to determine where human souls go. So, after they are attacked by demons, the group flees to the neutral place, also known as the accountant's office. Michael steals some data and discovers that the bad place doesn't need to do anything to condemn all of humanity. The increasing complications of life, mixed with the fact that there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, stick endless unintended consequences to every single action a person takes. There's no possibility to get enough points to make it to the good place. He argues to the judge that this means the point system is inadequate, and she allows the group to run an experiment in order to convince her to change how things work. They get 4 humans and put them in a fake good place, just like in season 1, and they see how they improve. They won the experiment, and they were right. People can improve, especially in a place where they receive care and love, and the unintended consequences cannot ruin their every single action. The judge decides to erase humanity and start over. At the last second, the group convinces her, the good place and the bad place, to instead fundamentally change the afterlife. Instead of your earthly life determining where you end up, it acts as a test. Your score determines how difficult your next test is. You're going to live through a looping simulation of sorts, where you get to learn how to behave better until eventually you earn a spot in the good place. For saving all of humanity's souls, the group gets to go to the real good place themselves. They find that the good place kind of sucks. Everyone can get anything they want, and so their brains kind of go kaput. The group fixes this by creating a door through which you can walk and cease existing. They spend a small eternity, and slowly, one by one, they walk through the door. The last episode is real sad. It's so hard to sit through, but it's not bleak somehow. It's like a hopeful depressing. Before Eleanor leaves, she gets Mindy to leave the medium place, and she convinces the judge to turn Michael into a human. He goes to Earth. Tahani becomes an afterlife architect. Janet is basically the most powerful existence we know of. Eleanor, Jason, and Chidi all return to the ether of the universe. The end. Axiom 2. You need to live. Chidi's fatal flaw is his indecisiveness. When his parents' marriage seems to be on the verge of destruction, Chidi gives a presentation on why they should stay together. This spark inspires them to work on their marriage and rediscover their love for each other. In part because of this event, Chidi comes to believe that there is an answer for everything. In other words, he is searching for an objective truth. He wants to discover the rules and follow them perfectly. Because he doesn't know these rules, decisions paralyze him. I mean, what if he doesn't pick the objectively correct colored hat after all? Sure, the only difference is the color, but which one is right? His search for truth becomes a paralytic. This leads him to hurting everyone that he's close to. In a very real way, this prevents Chidi from actively living. Tahani, always made to feel inferior to her sister by her cruel parents, became obsessed with chasing status. Or to be more accurate, being perceived as being high status. She wanted acclaim. She wanted exclusion. During the experiment with the 4 new humans in season 4, Tahani tells one of them about a time she was at an exclusive party, went to an exclusive zone inside that party, and then an exclusive room inside the exclusive zone. She sat in there alone, while people elsewhere were mingling and having fun. She couldn't bring herself to leave because of her need to be perceived as being at the top. If someone was better than her or thought they were better than her, then maybe her sister really was her superior, and all of the cruel things her parents said would be right. Tahani, during her life, does not live. A consistent theme for the show from the very start is that the divine beings who oversee the afterlife only improve themselves via becoming more human. Take Janet. At the start of the story, she is a repository of information and an instantaneous delivery system. She's basically mystical Amazon Alexa. But each time she gets rebooted, she gets a little stronger, and she understands humanity a little bit more. She starts to feel emotions. She becomes capable of love. As a good Janet, she should be incapable of lying. However, after many reboots, she gains that ability. She can start to do morally questionable things, and these things save the humans time and time again. She becomes the most advanced Janet on the planet, in the universe, capable of creating dozens of not-a-robots to populate the fake good place of season 4. She's capable of holding humans in her vast, boundless void. She can stand against powerful demons and is capable of creating a door that no one in the universe truly understands. She only gets there by steadily becoming more and more human. The judge, at first, believes wholeheartedly in the system. It's what's there and what has always been there. It's mathematical, so it must be fair. She's quick to dismiss Michael and the humans. She only allows them to run their season 4 experiment because they convince her to go down to Earth and see what it's like to live as a human. She goes to the planet and explores for a little bit, and she's instantly hit with racism and sexism and a mass of unintended consequences. Living briefly as a human increases her empathy. It's only through this experience of hers that the afterlife gets to be restructured and humanity gets to be saved. If she never lived, humanity would have been doomed. Michael has always had a slight fascination with humanity. He likes human phrases and human objects. He finds them strange and wonderful and fascinating. The closer he gets with humans, the more his life gets complicated. The simple narratives he was taught growing up get shattered in all the complicated mess of what it means to be a human being. He's only able to grasp morality and ethics when he's forced to face a very human idea. One day, he might cease to exist. No more me. He could die. This gives him an existential crisis, a very human thing to experience. He improves over and over, going from torturing the humans to rebelling against everything he ever knew in order to save them. He is willing to defy the judge, seemingly the most powerful being in the universe at the time, in order to save his friends. There was always going to be a good chance that he would fail, but he had to try anyway. He was a stubborn demon. At the very end of the show, as a reward for saving all of humanity, the judge grants him his greatest wish, and he goes down to Earth to experience life as a human being. What's it mean to live, though? When the group gets to the good place, they find the residents incapable of forming thoughts. They're all unhappy happiness zombies. They come to the determination that when you are able to do anything at any time, with no threat of death or consequence of end, life loses its meaning. There's a reason why utopias in fiction are almost always depicted as secret dystopias. As Eleanor and Michael remind us, life has meaning because it ends. We're all a little sad because we are the one species that is truly conscious and aware of our mortality. The good place only becomes the true good place when the option for things to end is provided. Through Tahani, though, we find this does not have to be the case. Life does not have to be about the possibility of an end. Tahani represents unending potential for growth. She decides to move beyond humanity. She longs to be an architect to continue helping people. Living, then, the show seems to say, is not death. It's the fight against stagnation. It's about growing. Michael's point to the judge after the experiment in season 4 is that humans are never at a fixed level of good or bad. There is always a chance that tomorrow we can be a little bit better than we are today. To live is to try to be better than we once were. It is to try to grow. For that to happen, we can't really live in endless utopia. Tahani and Chidi were attempting to find a sort of utopia that would quiet the anxieties in their minds once and for all, that would make it so nothing could harm them again. That's why they originally ended up in the bad place. They were not living. The show wants us to ask what self-limiting beliefs we have that prevent us from living. Sometimes these things are a bit beyond our control. Capitalism, for instance, can drive us toward a selfish independence, not necessarily because that's how we are or how we want to be, but because of the decisions we have to make in order to survive or ensure the safety of our loved ones. There are a bunch of unintended consequences. Immortality in the show is a bit of a curse. In order for things to have meaning, there doesn't only have to be a possibility for an end. There has to be an unknowable element to the universe. Axiom 3. You need to laugh. The Good Place dabbles in absurdism. It isn't to the degree of the film Airplane, but still, it's absurd. When you hear about absurdism, you probably start thinking about comedy. Absurd is illogical, it's unreasonable, it's silly, though that doesn't always mean it's funny. Obviously, The Good Place is a comedy, it's a sitcom, so it is funny. Absurdist humor is characterized oftentimes by wordplay, non sequiturs, ridiculous scenarios, and seemingly meaningless situations. The most common absurdist story you've probably heard of, and it's not a funny one, is Albert Camus' The Myth of Sisyphus. Sisyphus is a character from Greek mythology who, due to his wickedness and defiance of the gods, is condemned to push a boulder up a hill. Right as he's about to get to the top, the boulder rolls back down. Sisyphus must journey down the hill and push the boulder back up. This continues on and on forever. Sisyphus has no choice but to push the boulder, yet he can never succeed at getting it over the hilltop. It is a meaningless action. It is absurd. Yet, in the moment he walks down the hill and escapes the physical torment, he has the free will to choose how he thinks about the action, about life, about meaning. If he chooses not to despair, then he continues to defy the gods, and we must imagine Sisyphus happy. Absurdism is an offshoot of existentialism. You probably know what an existential crisis is. It's like a group of college kids sitting around smoking too much weed, snacking on chips, and asking if, what if it's all like a simulation, dude? Man, what if we're all in a computer? Existentialism, absurdism, and nihilism all start with experiencing an existential crisis and confronting the nature of our mortality. We are going to die. We live in an absurd universe. That is, one that does not really care about us. It's cold and likely meaningless. An existential crisis forces you to glimpse the sea of nihilism. You stand on the shores of a black hole. Do you dive in and embrace annihilation? Do you find meaning in the personal, the self? Or do you find meaning in the defiant search for meaning, despite the absurdity of the universe? In order, that would be a nihilist, an existentialist, and an absurdist. A suicidal person, a French person, and a member of Monty Python. Sisyphus finds meaning, and therefore happiness, in his defiance of the gods. They mean for him to despair, to embrace nihilism, but he does not. The Good Place is obviously not nihilistic, but is it absurdist? In Season 2, the humans are continuously rebooted. They are reset and placed back into the torture. They discover their situation, get to the brink of maybe changing things, and then get rebooted. They're Sisyphean figures, going through ultimately meaningless torture loops. When their experiment succeeds in Season 4, before they set up the new afterlife system, the judge determines that she's going to reboot the universe. All human souls will vanish. Humanity will start over. Immediately, it seems the struggle of the entire show may have been meaningless. Every human life as well. A universe which can loop is an absurd universe, though not necessarily an absurdist one. After all, the premise of the show, of the first season, is lifted straight from Sartre's existentialist play No Exit. In that play, a group of humans are brought to hell and are locked in a room together. They then begin to torture each other. Not like cutting each other up, but like emotional torture. In The Good Place, the humans are originally meant to torture each other for eternity. The play is known for the famous phrase, hell is other people, or hell is the people. This gets used by people all the time to simply complain about living in society. It's used to say other people suck. It's used to say solitude is good, but are those really accurate? There are no reflective surfaces in the place. The only way for the self-conscious characters to perceive themselves is through the other people. Their sense of self is not internal, it is external. Eleanor's torture in The Good Place is that she is placed in a situation where everyone is stated to be her moral superior. She's self-conscious about this. The effort to be seen as worthy by others is torturous. Hell is not other people because other people suck. Hell is other people because when you relinquish your sense of self and ability to create meaning to other people, you are doomed to inadequacy and despair. A lot of the jokes in The Good Place are based on wordplay, a central aspect of absurdist theater. The characters say silly things. The fake Good Place has forced malapropisms, replacing curse words with similar sounding non-curses that technically don't make sense. Fuck becomes fork. Ass becomes ash. It's a pointless difference. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. There are 4 types of Janets to correspond to the different planes of existence in the afterlife. Good Janets, bad Janets, neutral Janets, and disco Janets. Why is there a disco Janet? It's sort of random. Is there a disco afterlife? No, but that'd be fun. Why is there an afterlife system in the first place? The judge doesn't seem to think anything about wiping out all humanity. There's no mention of alien life or why demons were even made to deal with human souls. There's no telling why souls exist. They just do. It's a shape the energy of the universe takes for a little bit. There's a door you can walk through that returns you to the essence of the universe. Janet summons an ostrich steak impaled on a giant novelty pencil that says, "Lordy, Lord, I'm over 40. That's silly. It's absurd. It's funny. In the episode Pandemonium, when Chidi has to get his memory wiped and join the experiment, meaning that he'll forget Eleanor and the love that the two shared, Eleanor demands Janet tell her the answer. Eleanor says, "What's the point of love if it's just going to disappear? How is it worse to not love anybody? There has to be meaning to existence, otherwise the universe is just made of pain, and I don't like the thought of that, so tell me the answer." After all this time, she's realized she stands on the shore of nihilism. With love gone, all she can see on the horizon is stretching emptiness and pain. Nihilism is despair. Janet, wise not a robot she is, says, "If there were an answer I could give you to how the universe works, it wouldn't be special. It would just be machinery fulfilling its cosmic design. It would just be a big, dumb food processor. But since nothing seems to make sense, when you find something or someone that does, it's euphoria." Eleanor comes to the conclusion, I guess all I can do is embrace the pandemonium. Find happiness in the unique insanity of being here now. We must imagine Sisyphus happy. It is only because the universe is absurd and beyond our understanding, seemingly beyond meaning, that we are capable of finding meaning. The show, on some level, is about philosophy. It takes a specific interest in the Scanlon book. One of its last moments is that quote from before. Working out the terms of moral justification is an unending task. The work of philosophy is unending, much as the work of Sisyphus pushing the boulder. Yet that search for improvement is how we live. The search for meaning is how we find joy in spite of despair. In order to live, you have to laugh. The universe is absurd. It is funny. Isn't the story of Sisyphus not simply the story of torture? It isn't merely analogous to time loops and reboots of The Good Place. It's the story of work. We work, we get off, we go to bed, we work again, we repeat this forever. We have yet to find the answer that eliminates the need for any and all labor. Joy is found most often between those moments of work. When we walk down the hill, we can laugh and rest and experience euphoria. We are all Sisyphus. We must imagine him happy because we must imagine ourselves happy. In order to truly live, we have to laugh. Chidi thinks about all the indecisiveness of his life and determines there is no answer. There is no meaning. But importantly, he concludes, despite the meaninglessness, Eleanor is the answer. Axiom 4. You need to love. There's an occult religion called Thelema that I researched a little bit when I was in college for a book I was writing at the time. I need to go back and revise that at some point. It was okay. Thelema is known primarily for 2 tenets. First, do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. In other words, meaning is found in the will to power. It's Nietzschean, it's existentialist. Second, love is the law. Meaning isn't merely found in selfish desire. Desire must be tempered by passion and compassion. In one of Plato's many cosplay Socrates essays, he has a character named Diotima teach Socrates a theory about the evolution of love, a concept called the ladder of love in English. We named it such because you climb up the rungs and leave the lower ones beneath you, at least theoretically. You start by loving a beautiful person. In other words, you get turned on for the first time. Then you get turned on by more people and start to love all beautiful bodies. Eventually, sex loses its oomph, and you start caring more about people's souls and gay stuff like that. Speaking of gay stuff like that, these beautiful souls reproduce via creating good systems and laws. You start loving those. Then you move beyond that. You love the reasons behind those laws. You love knowledge and learning. Specifically, the height of love is philosophy. Or not the height, because there is one more rung. The love of beauty itself as a thing that supposedly exists. I think of this ladder less of a ladder and more as a hill on which you push a boulder up. The final rung, where you discover and love beauty itself, is impossible to reach because it suggests an answer, the answer, and there isn't one. But we continually climb the ladder. It isn't exactly like Sisyphus, though. The ladder is even more absurd. It keeps stretching. The order of the rungs keeps changing. Sometimes you go from love of many beautiful bodies to the love of a singular beautiful body to the love of philosophy, straight back to being a good boy on gay blue sky. When we meet Eleanor, she's trapped on the second rung of the ladder. She's constantly horny. She loves beautiful people. Desire is for lack. But morality does not attract Eleanor. Rather, it reminds her of her deficiencies in a way that results in repulsion instead of attraction, though those two things are very similar. The majority of the show details Eleanor's evolution to loving beautiful minds and souls. Chidi's kindness, more than his hotness, is what draws Eleanor in and allows her to improve. She starts reading philosophy for fun. Importantly, though, she's still attracted to beautiful bodies. The ladder might exist in some form, but it's certainly not as the sort of ladder that we conceptualize on this human plane. You can be on multiple rungs at a time. It's a upper dimensional ladder. And the final system, as they revise the afterlife, they love good laws and systems. Michael experiences a reverse sort of evolution. As a demon, he's taught about the goodness of the system. It's only as he discovers the beautiful minds of humanity that he can start to despise the ugliness of the system. Love is not merely appreciation for beauty, whatever that is. It's the ability to spot ugliness, whatever that is. If we conceptualize the latter as a real thing that exists, though, as it's laid out by Plato, I think we can add to it. In my superhero play Opulence, I have the characters combine Diotima's ladder with Maslow's pyramid of needs, the hierarchy of needs. How do you reach the rung of the ladder where you love good laws when you are struggling to fulfill your basic needs? Can you ever glimpse beauty if you can't self-actualize? Can you climb the love ladder if you yourself are not loved, if you do not have self-esteem, if you are struggling to survive? The Good Place seems to somewhat agree with that idea, that combination. One of my favorite quotes comes from Michael when he's arguing against the mathematical judgment of human goodness. He says, "The point is, people improve when they get external love and support. How can we hold it against them when they don't? Love and support expressed by the core group toward people they were close to on Earth led to each of those Earthlings improving morally. We become better when we love and are loved." Eleanor and Chidi's love for each other is what allows them to improve, time and time again. When Eleanor claims that their love is stronger than whatever Michael can throw at them, back when, he was still evil and rebooting them all the time in season 2, he laughs it off. We're meant to as well. He was, compared to them, all-powerful. Love meant nothing in the face of his abilities to crush them with a giant elephant if he wanted to. But in the end, she was right. Their love was more powerful. Jason's love for Janet manages to turn magic Amazon Alexa into one of the most powerful, empathetic existences in all space-time. Janet only evolves because of love. What's important to note is that The Good Place also sort of rejects the ladder of love entirely. The latter, as we've sort of hinted at, implies some forms of love are lesser than others. Love for a person is lesser than love for good laws or philosophy. But that isn't correct. In the search for meaning in a meaningless universe, Chidi and Eleanor choose to love each other and to imagine that love as the answer. Their romantic attraction is what saves them, and by extension, humanity, from despair. Michael's love for the beautiful souls of humanity is what allows him to become a better being. The judge's love for good laws and systems is what allows her to change the system after determining that it is not good and beautiful, but rather cruel and arbitrary and ugly. Tahani does not end the series in a relationship, even after eternities. Rather, it's the love of friendship and family that drives her. She ends the show by moving beyond the bounds of humanity, becoming an architect. In a semi-real way, she ends the show alone. Most of her friends have stopped existing. She doesn't have a romantic interest, and yet she goes on. And we imagine Tahani happy. She is in love with goodness itself. Tahani is the only individual to ever reach the top rung of the ladder. She wants to help others achieve goodness. She is on the search for unending improvement. And Tahani's search will never end. She will always be climbing. Yet we must imagine Tahani happy. The Good Place determines that to be good, you must 1. Live. In order to truly live, you must acknowledge the absurdity of the universe and the potential for there to be no inherent meaning. Because you must live, though, you cannot embrace annihilation, so you must, 2. Laugh. In order to laugh and therefore live, you must choose to define meaninglessness. You must, in whatever form it comes to you and you are comfortable giving. 3. Love. Thelema is both wrong and right. There is no law, and yet love is the whole of the law. At the end of the day, The Good Place cuts through all the complications of philosophy to present us with the cold, hard truth. There is an answer, actually, and it rests on the kitchen walls of every wine mom in America. Live, laugh, love. If you manage those 3 things, you will always find the entrance to the good place. Howdy, and thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share if you're feeling saucy. You can join me over on Patreon if you would like, wherein you'll get these videos and others early. You'll also get to have some fun behind the scenes access to some of my art projects, some more personal vlogging style content, and you'll just get to support me and we'll get to chat about art a whole bunch, which is what I love to do most. You can go over to Amazon Smashwords or wherever you get your ebooks and purchase a copy of my poetry collections, Butterfly Snuff, and A Museum of Art and Eggs, both of which are also available in paperback and hardback. I have a second channel where I'm just reading through a bunch of public domain stuff for the fun of it and through my own work, so you'll get readings of these poetry collections and some short stories and some longer form fiction when I get around to it, and some plays. And I have a third channel where I'm uploading my music and art instead of having it all clog up this channel. So go support those if you feel like it. That content, a lot of it will also be getting uploaded early to Patreon. So if you want all of my stuff in one convenient space, Patreon is the place to go, which would be really cool of you, you know? I hope you have a fantastic day. Do not be rude in the comments. Do not go and harass anybody. And I will see you next time.